Christmas was not a good time for us. At Christmas, my dad was usually drunk and he could be mean. We didn't have much money, so we couldn't afford the stuff that most people had at Christmas. So I didn't look forward to it. It was not a time I looked for. And then I became a pastor, and my feelings about Christmas doubled. I mean, if you're a pastor and you got people in your church who've lost loved ones during the year, man, Christmas is hell. And if you've lost your job, that ain't time to sing Christmas carols. And if you got a kid that's really sick, or the doctor is giving you a prognosis that isn't wonderful, you don't feel like going to Christmas parties and jumping up and down. And so a pastor gets all of that. Plus, it's not only does his counseling load triple, or her counseling load triple, during Christmas you got 18,000 services. Then you got to write a sermon, a lot of sermons to keep people awake. And it's hard to keep people awake at Christmas. They're already tired from all they're doing, so church is a good place to nap. And not only that, it is, as I mentioned before, very hard at Christmas to say anything new. I mean, we've been doing this for 2,000 years. If it hasn't been said now, it never will be. And it's not only been said once, it's been said over and over again. Baby, manger, angels, shepherds. And so John, probably because he doesn't like me very much, invited me to come and talk to you about Christmas. And frankly, I'm a Scrooge at Christmas. Although I'm better, and I don't know whether it's Jesus or old age, but I'm not as mean as I used to be, and I don't ruin Christmas for other people the way I used to do. So I'm getting better, and grandchildren help too. It's just hard if you look like Santa Claus, and I do, and you're a Scrooge. It's a disconnect for your grandchildren. But nevertheless, John said, come and say something about Christmas. So I'm going to say something about Christmas. Let me read from the Bible. I thought this morning when I was thinking about what I was going to be saying to you, I thought that what I would do is read a traditional Christmas story and then talk about it. And then I thought, everybody's heard that. They're going to hear it 18 times before Christmas is over. So I'm going to read from the Gospel of John, the first chapter, which is one of the most mind-blowing, amazing passages in all of literature. And if it's true, it's incredible. Listen to what John, and he was the beloved apostle of Jesus. Listen to what John said. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God, and all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness hasn't overcome it. And we go, okay, I get that. God, creation, mountains, stars, world. I get that. That's a religious statement. It's a religious statement that can be made by any religion in the world. And it will be true. But then John goes south. I mean, he can't stop there. And that's what's amazing about Christmas. A little bit further in that same chapters, this is what he said. And the Word, the Creator, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we beheld his glory, The glory is of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace. That's grace. That means God's not angry at you, and he never will be. Full of grace and truth. John bore witness to him and cried out, saying, "This is he of whom I said, he who comes after me is preferred before me, for he was before me." That's the pre-existence of Christ. And then he says, and in his fullness we have received grace for grace. For the law was given through Moses. And the law is cool, because it expresses the mind of God. And then John says, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. You ever come across a quote in your reading that just blows your mind and you can't stop thinking about it? That happened to me 2 or 3 weeks ago. We run a publishing company in cooperation with another publishing company in Philadelphia at the ministry where I work. And I'm enforced to read manuscripts that new authors are submitting. And I found this quote from Martin Luther, the founder of the Reformation. I found this quote in one of those books. Now you gotta know that Martin Luther's my hero. And not because he was good, but because he was bad. That was one mean dude. I mean, he was the one who said, sin boldly. Now he wasn't encouraging sin. He was just saying, you gotta lean hard on the grace of Christ. He was one time asked, Dr. Luther, by the way, he was the first translator of the entire Bible into German. I mean, he literally changed the landscape of the world by being at a university in Wittenberg and being at the church there and nailing a statement, which was kind of an obscene gesture at religion, nailing a statement to the church door. Somebody said to him, Dr. Luther, don't we bring anything to the table when we come to God? And he said, I must have misspoken. You must have misunderstood what I said. Of course we bring something. We bring our sins. I keep the works of Martin Luther, and there are a lot of them in my study when I work. That's how much, and I bring it down a lot. And so I thought Luther is old to me. I mean, I know everything he ever said. I've read everything he ever wrote. And then this young guy who's writing a manuscript for us gave me a quote I'd never heard before. And I can hardly wait to tell you. So if you're sleeping, wake up. This is what Luther said. God does not search for what he loves and desires. He creates it. Ooh. God does not search. He's not looking at you to see if you'll be kind and pure and sweet and malleable and spiritual. God does not search for what he loves and desires. He creates it. And you say, Brown, what does that have to do with Christmas? It has everything to do with Christmas. Because Christmas is the central fact of God creating what he loves and what he desires. And so for just a few moments, I thought I'd tell you 3 or 4 things I was thinking about this morning before you got up. That's because I'm more spiritual than you are. I get up at 4 in the morning. I hope you're impressed with that. Actually, if you sin as much as I do, it takes a long time to confess. And so it's me and Jesus and coffee in the morning. This morning I was thinking about you. I even prayed for you. I was thinking about what I was going to say to you. And that Luther quote kept coming back, and I thought, what does that have to do with Christmas? And then it dawned on me, everything. The Luther quote and Christmas say to us that God is a lot different than they have been telling us? Really? Have you noticed how religion makes some people weird? It really does. We have a talk show that's on about 180 stations. And last week we were talking to one of our new authors, and he was talking about a friend of his who's an atheist. And I said, why is he an atheist? He said, because his mother's a fanatic. Said she kept praying for him to come to church, and just to please her, he decided he would come to church. So he gets to church, and they're all praying. And then he hears his name, so they're all praying for him. And not only that, got up and started moving in his direction. And he started backing out of the church. And my friend swears this happened. Backing out of the church and saying, just back off. They keep moving at him until he gets out in the parking lot. And he gets out of the limb that's just laying there, and he's trying to keep them away. They want to pray for him because they love him. But that's not how you should. Some religion will mess with your head. Pagans are weird too. But it's a different kind of weirdness. Religion, really, because we've been told that God's a child abuser. You sin, and he'll break your leg. He'll give you cancer. You do something wrong, and you're going to lose your job here. You get out of line, and he's going to break your legs. Listen to me. That's a lie. That's from the pit of hell, and it smells like smoke. That's why Luther and Christmas make a difference. God says, don't listen to them. Listen to me. Grace and truth in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome. And so God doesn't look around for really good, sweet, nice, spiritual people. He creates them. What he loves and what he desires. And he's been creating me from the moment of my birth. And it all started at Christmas. That doesn't mean you have to work at it. I mean, it's what he does. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to. I had a book come out this year called Hidden Agendas, How the Masks We Wear Hurt Us and Those We Love. It's one of the truly great books of Christendom, and you'll buy it because I need the money. Actually, I don't get anything for those books. They all go into the ministry, the royalties. But working on that book, the first thing I saw when I started writing was how phony I am. A lot more than you are. You want my job. All I do is talk about God. And sometimes I don't even like God. All I do is do religion, and sometimes I just want to run or become a Buddhist or something. And so the first thing, this book that I was writing for other people, the first thing that happened is that it became my book for me personally, and I wrote in the chapter. I teach in seminary, and seminary students are really smart. I wish I knew as much as they did. And I often will say to seminary students, guys, you haven't lived long enough, and you haven't sinned big enough to even have an opinion on that. And they get really quiet because they think the old guy might have something to say here. So I write this book, and I decide I'm going to confess my sins in this book, and that's what I did in the first chapter. I've often said, kind of kidding, that I don't read religious books. But I would read more of them if the author would spend the first chapter confessing his or her sins. And then once we've got that down, I'll listen to what you say. But we're so phony. And I'm so phony because I'm so religious. People expect me to be wonderful, and I'm not. You know what they do with a preacher? They give you a microphone, they put you 6 feet above everybody else, and they shine a spotlight on you, and they tell you to be humble. What's with that? You can't do that. And if you add to that what I do, I write books, I'm in media, I have a wonderful voice. If you never have to look at me, you'll be impressed. This is God's joke, putting this voice in this body. And he thought it was funny, but I didn't. But I've got this wonderful voice, it's better than yours. And I'm an old, cynical preacher. So when I speak, people think stuff about me that's just not true. And I really want to live up to their expectations. So I work at it. And as I wrote that book, I thought to myself, I'm not going to do this anymore. And you know the main brick in that building? The main brick is thinking that there's a God who wants me to be that way. I got a wonderful email this morning. We have over 5,000 pastors on our mailing list. This morning I got an email from a pastor friend who has gone through a really rough time. And he said, I've been praying, but it doesn't sound like praying. My language isn't very good. And this is preacher talking. And he said, I've been telling God I don't like him very much either. And I wrote him back and I said, God rejoices in your authenticity. Because God's different than you think. He's different than what the folks have been telling us. He's not this scary, because everything you know about God, you learn in the incarnation of Christ at Christmas. And if you ask, who is God? That's where you go. If you've seen me, Jesus said, you've seen the Father. And then, you know that Luther quote, and Christmas go together and say to us that God's love is a lot bigger than we think it is.